Hi everyone, the following is a video review of the Brainstorming Solutions presentation from Project Lead the Way. In this presentation, we're going to look at the term for brainstorming, the rules for brainstorming, and some different techniques that you can use when working in a group to come up with new ideas. And then they have a term here, concept generation dysfunctions, basically some of the pitfalls that people find themselves in when trying to come up with new ideas. So it's good to recognize those. So if you find yourself in a situation like that, when you're stuck, you can try to use one of these techniques that we'll discuss to get yourself around it. So the definition of brainstorming is a group technique for solving problems, generating ideas, stimulating creative thinking, and it involves collecting ideas without regard to feasibility. We have four major rules for brainstorming. No criticism allowed, that's number one. Work for quantity, welcome piling on, and allow a free-for-all. So starting with no criticism allowed, everybody deserves a chance to be heard. And so you want to make sure that when you're working in your groups that you're encouraging each other to communicate and to pitch ideas and to not be shy or nervous about being in those kinds of situations, because we're all working on the same ideas together, and together we are stronger and better for it. And so the next topic here, high quantity brainstorming. People must experience the term here is brain drain before the innovative and creative ideas can surface. So therefore, the more ideas that you have, the more ideas you write down, the more likely that one of those ideas will actually be of quality and usable for the problem that you're trying to solve. So work for quantity, try to get as many things down on the paper, again, without regard to feasibility, without regard to if it is possible with your current understanding of how things work. The next term here is to welcome piling on. This occurs when a member's ideas produce a similar idea or an enhanced idea. All ideas should be recorded. Again, so as you're brainstorming and pitching ideas back and forth, you might say something that triggers somebody else in your group to think of something. And so just keep working together on that and bouncing it back and forth until you get something that works. Allow a free for all. Outrageous, humorous, and seemingly unimportant ideas should all be recorded. It is possible for the most off the wall idea to have a little golden nugget inside of it that might actually be usable. All right. And so again, the sky is the limit. Put down anything that you can think of. Some brainstorming techniques. First, here you have forced association. This is where ideas are created by mentally forcing the association of two seemingly unrelated items. For example, Johann Gutenberg combined a wine press and a coin stamp to create the movable type press, which is a really big invention in its time, and of course, laid the path for print and everything else. Scamper is another one here. This is where if you follow the acronym, if you have an idea that you're kind of working with, you could think about substituting something to it or with it, combine it with a different idea, adapt it to something else, maybe magnify it, make it larger, modify it, put it to some other use, maybe take something away from it, rearrange it, and reverse it. Another good technique is called mind mapping. So starting with your center idea and branching out from there, and then continuing to branch out until you have all the details that you're looking to put together for the problem that you're trying to solve. Here's just a nice mind map looking at the problem of global warming, as if it would only be that easy, right? Just to draw it all out and say, bam, here's our problem, our solutions right here. This is what we're going to do. It's a little bit harder than that, unfortunately. Now, when you're documenting your ideas, you should have a note taker. Take photographs of any sketches and things that you do and make sure they end up in your engineering notebook, and compile the ideas after the session. Take good notes, record all ideas. Now, here's that term, concept generation dysfunction. Again, this is what happens when things go wrong. So in some cases, utilizing a poor design brief could send you down the wrong path. Assuming there's only one right answer, getting hooked on the first solution, and then considering the ideas from only one or a couple of the team members in your group. Again, we want to make sure everybody's voice is heard. Of course, feeling too anxious to finish, becoming frustrated by the lack of success, and getting hooked on a solution that almost works, right? It's really easy to kind of get into a situation where you have an idea that's kind of working. You just want to keep hammering it out until you make it work, but sometimes you just need to back off of that idea and try something completely different to get to where you want to be. Again, if you get stuck, try combining promising partial solutions, try a different brainstorming technique, try both individual and group brainstorming, and of course, do some research. Consider concepts used by other designers and other concepts employed in unrelated products. And that is the end of the presentation. And real quickly here, I just want to jump over. You're going to do an activity today where you'll be utilizing these brainstorming techniques that we just discussed. And that is going to be activity 1.3, product improvement. And so here is my engineering notebook example. And for this activity, you will document the first 3 steps of the design process. So find the problem, generate concepts, and develop a solution. And so with that, I've just defined the problem here, and the way that the activity is written, you'll be tasked with taking a plain white beverage cup and making it better, improving it in some way that everybody would want to purchase your design, purchase your product. And so I've basically written out what that define the problem statement would be. I've been tasked with brainstorming ways to enhance or change a plain white beverage container so that nearly every consumer would want to purchase it. Generate concept. This is where you're working together as a group, coming up with as many ideas as possible. So I made a brainstorming list. You folks will do the same thing. Make a brainstorm list in your documentation for this activity. And then from there, developing a solution. You want to take one of those ideas, or maybe a few of those ideas, and work on them and get them put into a design of some kind. And so for this, of course, you have to temper it a little bit. You can't just take all 10 ideas you come up with and shove them into a product, because they might not all work together. So you have to think about what is actually going to make a cohesive project or a cohesive product at the end of it all. So for this, we selected hold a large volume of water, has a handle, built-in speaker, and incorporate Google Assistant. I use Google Assistant a lot at home and on my phone and in the car while I'm traveling, and so why not put it in a mug? And so we would name this the Google Smart Mug. We created a sketch for it and labeled some of those various features that were highlighted here. And of course, as doing your engineering notebook documentation, you should have your signatures at the bottom, your dates at the bottom, your titles at the top, all of that. And then moving on to page 2, just including here a justification and a description. So I went on to say, I love how my Google Assistant works in my car, my phone, and at home, so why not integrate that same technology into the mug? It should have a handle for an easier way to grip the mug. It would need a built-in speaker and microphone. If it has a Google Assistant, we need to have that done. And I could also use the speaker to play music, maybe through Spotify, which would also be great. And I would like to hold at least 24 ounces of water. That way, if I refill it 4 to 5 times a day, I would get the recommended amount of water to stay hydrated. In conjunction with the activity, there are conclusion questions. So I'll add that here in my engineering notebook and the answers to those. And I ended up in a situation where I have half of a page that's open. So as we discussed in the last video, you want to put a diagonal line here and sign your name across it to take up the remaining space. All right, so this was my activity, my example for the activity. You folks will do the same thing, working in a group. Start by defining your problem, generate concepts, develop a solution, create a sketch, create a little description for the sketch and the ideas that you've picked. And then I'll be asking you to present this to the rest of the class. You get a chance to jump up on the document camera, show your engineering notebooks. Whoever has the best engineering notebook entry and the best handwriting and the cleanest sketch will like to show yours first, of course, and if there's others, we can show them all. But basically, you get a chance to present your idea to the rest of the class. So I hope you have fun with this one, and thanks for watching, everybody.